We're gonna go over to the beach over there and check it out. It looks like a cave that we can swim underneath. Explore the town just nearby. And he's also a diesel mechanic, so he might come over later and check out our engine.
That's a lot of current. And you can see the change of color from like the deep water to the shallow water. Pretty big problems with our engine. Quite a big rebuild. Or like you said, maybe just buy a new engine. Are you adapting one?
We'll take all of them.
Woohoo!
We're making pizza!
It's a little bit of yeast, salt, oil, water. After backpacking, we decided to see the world by sailboat. We sailed from the Great Lakes of Canada and made it to the Bahamas, where the unexpected happened.
Still not able to start the engine.
And we're gonna have a feast!
We got a dolphin fish! Let's go! It's just epic.
What you up to?
Oh, just taking down the dinghy. I'm gonna go over to the beach over there and check it out. Maybe take a little walk and see what this area has to offer. Since we're gonna be here for, well, we were originally probably gonna try to leave tomorrow, but I don't think the wind is gonna be enough from the south, which is what we need to be able to traverse through that cut. And so I think we're gonna hang out here for 2 days. And then the next morning, when the tide is at basically an hour after high tide or 2 hours after high tide, we're gonna go through the cut, and the wind should be coming directly from the south, which should give us close to the beam anyway, and hopefully not beating into it too much. So let's go have some fun. It's kind of funny, you'd think these shells would really hurt, but it's like a bed of nails. They're so close together that it's kind of just like a massage on your feet. It's a nice beach. It's beautiful. Checking out this hole. It looks like a cave that we can swim underneath to get back up to the water. I think this is what we're gonna come do later. Super cool.
This is the famous Current Cut, which separates Current Island in the south from Current Settlement in the north. We headed back to the sailboat to grab our snorkeling gear and go for a quick dive before sunset. We found lots of sea life, corals, and bright colors as we made it to the cut. But the current was so strong. I stayed close to shore while looking at the corals and small fish. The visibility in the cut wasn't the greatest, but Cory still managed to spot a shark. There were big fish in the strong current, but it was tricky to spear them. A little cold, and with the fading light, we swam back to our dinghy.
just beside Current Cut right now. We came over to this little beach and we're gonna go explore the town just nearby. And we just met Andy, who seems like a really nice guy. He built a beautiful steel boat. It's Bruce Roberts, what'd you call it? 53 foot. And he's also a diesel mechanic, so he might come over later and check out our engine, so that'd be pretty sweet. We'll get a second opinion on what we think is wrong with it. We walked for only 10 minutes before reaching the other side of the island. North Eleuthera Island is very narrow here.
Needs to climb. I don't know if you can see this, but that's a lot of current. That's pretty much why we want to time ourselves to go into the current cut. Because right now we'd be pushed backwards, it just wouldn't work. But that's just crazy, and you can see the change of color from like the deep water to the shallow water. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a sweet ledge all the way along, eh?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a little baby turtle up there.
It was good to get a close look at Current Cut before having to traverse it. There's some really strong tidal action as waters rush between the Atlantic Ocean and Eleuthera Sound. This narrow channel can have up to 10 knots of current. Luckily, it's a good 30 to 50 feet deep in the center.
Are you excited to go across?
Yeah, a little nerve-wracking with all the current, but we're going to be traveling when there's a lot less current, so it shouldn't be too bad. We might leave tomorrow if the wind clocks out of the south, but if it doesn't, because it was supposed to do it today, then we might wait a couple days until the wind turns out of the north. So we might not be super protected for the switch because it's going to be like gusting to 35, but it'll be a short period of time, so it might not be too bad. And then that'll give us more time to do a drift dive here and potentially have Andy look at the engine. I thought potentially the engine was cranking over a little slower, so I thought maybe it was related to...
Huh. Jeez, it spins over fast enough.
Okay, well...
And you got the fuel.
Well, it seems like we have some pretty big problems with our engine. We just had Andy that came over, really nice of him, and he checked out our engine. And I mean, from what he can gather anyways, we might have our rings of our pistons that are totally gone, shot. So I think we're looking at quite a big rebuild. Or like he said, maybe just buy a new engine.
He was a really nice guy. He kind of talked us through a few things. I thought we just had a valve job to do, but it turns out that maybe we also have a piston problem. Oil is getting into our air filter, which we knew was a problem, but I didn't really realize. I think I read it somewhere, but anyway, I wasn't 100% sure if it was ring related or anything like that. So his opinion is to potentially just buy either a new engine or buy a rebuilt engine. He's not a big fan of rebuilding what we have now for his own reasons, but basically he thinks that after 5 years or so we're going to have another problem, I guess, down the road. So anyway, Alex and I are just talking about our different options. And I'm thinking, regardless of what anybody else is saying, I'm going to take off the head and see what the problem is. See if we have to have our valves rebuilt, check our pistons and the rings, and maybe do a lot of the work myself if I can, and only hire a professional when we need him. And if it seems like once we take off the head, everything is just going south and it looks like the engine is completely shot, well, then we have a couple other options. We can slap in like a 15 horsepower outboard on the back of this boat, and that could be our power. Or something we're talking about a little more seriously again is spending all the money that we would spend on repairs and whatever else, a new engine if God forbid, and just going electric. Now I know a lot of different people have lots of different opinions on the whole electric thing, but essentially the way we are sailing right now, we don't use the engine for anything, obviously, because we have none. And now that we're done the Erie Canal and we don't have any serious motoring that I can think of in store for our future, I wouldn't see why we couldn't just, you know, do something like what Uma did and get a cheap tow motor engine and get some good quality lithium batteries and just run lithium and run an electric engine. The reason why I think that would work is because really we only need the engine if we're starting to drag anchor and, you know, there's a bad storm or something, or to get through a little cut, or to get into a tight anchorage or something like that. There's not many circumstances anymore, I'm starting to realize, where we need an engine. I could go completely engineless, but I just want to make sure that we have the backup if we really need it. And so that's why I think maybe electric might be a potential option. So anyway, we're going to talk about it some more and kind of figure it all out.
We woke up to a spectacular schooner which was heading into the cut. The wind wasn't right for us, so instead we went for a drift dive. And apparently it is one of the fastest drift dives in the world. There's a local guide who offers tours and is super knowledgeable, so we heard. The current was extremely strong and there is no way we could swim against it. So we stayed close to shore and used the eddies to dive into current cut.
What a neat feeling it is when you stop swimming and just drift past coral and fish at very high speed. We kept swimming back to where we could no longer fight the current, and then just let ourselves get propelled by the raw power of the tides. It reminds me of a river. We saw some stingrays swimming around and even a massive barracuda. Plus, now we knew exactly what was underneath our keel for our traverse the next day.
Time for more land explorations. We walked back over to Current Settlement and strolled along Main Street. It's a quaint little village of over 200 years old. There's a library, post office, church, and a small general store. What did you find?
I don't remember what it's called, but it's huge. Look at this plant. You see them just as little house plants normally, but it's huge. It's bigger than me.
So many cats.
Oh, there's two more. This one looks like it's got fleas.
Are you adopting one?
We'll take all of them.
What is this? huge!
Almost like a palm.
How was the exploration?
Oh, it was nice. It's really warm today though. Sweating like crazy. I think it's time to maybe go for a swim.
Woohoo! Haha, so refreshing.
So, Alex says she needs lukewarm water. And luckily we've been warming up water all day on the deck. We're making pizza!
Okay, well, let's see if these packets of yeast still work because they're technically expired. It's a little bit of yeast, some 2 cups of flour, about a teaspoon and a half of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, it's about half. And then we're gonna stir all the dried stuff in first. I'm really hoping this works because I've been craving pizza. Okay. 5 teaspoons of oil. I like olive oil, adds a good flavor. And a lukewarm cup of water. Ooh, it's foaming, it's good. So now we're just gonna add a bit of flour here and knead our dough.
Knead away!
Such a weird word. It's a bit too wet.
Too much water.
You brought me too much hot water or lukewarm water. Kind of excited. And it's gonna be with the cheese from Bahamas, which isn't too expensive. You get what is it, $4.50 for a pound of cheese? Everything works by the pound. So Bahamas is interesting with the price of food. Some stuff is like stupid expensive. Pretty much everything that's imported. And then when it comes to cheese, it's not too bad. Produce are actually not as bad as I thought. It's like a lot of them are up to par with the cost of what I would get at let's say Publix in the US. Eggs have paid anything between $2.50 to almost $4 for a dozen, and it really depends where you go. Spanish Wells was really good for prices at the food fair. Then in Andros it was a little bit more expensive.
So what do you do after you're done there?
Then we're gonna let it rise and we're gonna prep everything we want to put on this.
Yum yum yum!
And I think I'll make some brownies while I'm gonna have the oven hot. That's the Bahamas cheese, and that's some parm from Costco. Do you want to show me my dough?
Sure. Let's see, is it risen yet? Ooh.
Perfect.
Nice and fluffy.
Did you hear this?
It's got air in it.
Woohoo! Now I'm gonna wash that bowl so that I can do my brownies. Don't you have a rolling pan?
Pass Pesto!
Oh yeah.
Presto pesto!
Pesto's the best in pizzas. Some peppers. And Cory asked me if we had enough stuff to put in the pizza. It's gonna be overloaded, as usual. Oh my, way too much stuff. It's like more condiments than pizza.
Look. Yum, yum, yum.
Should be yummy.
Eventually.
La la! Been smelling so good.
How excited are you?
So excited! And the boat actually isn't that hot, even though we've been using the oven for a while now. I think that might be too hot. Perfectly cooked.
Brownies.
So good. I've been craving brownies for a little while, so this is perfect. The oven works. The wind and waves actually weren't really lining up, so the whole boat was just all over the place.
There's our narrow cut, current cut. We're doing it finally. A little nerve-wracking. Queen's Bath.
Let's go see it. Huge cliffs with like jagged rocks, sunshine on Eleuthera Island, and taking in the scenery.
Really nothing compares to seeing it firsthand. But it's so much more than just some pools of water right by the ocean.